there's a lot of videos on YouTube that go into color space and color profiles and the concept of it and like scientifically how it works, but I actually wanted to go into the practical applications of it for people who want to create printed items and products that they may be sending off to a manufacturer to produce as opposed to making themselves. Depending on what you're creating your initial file in, you might not need to worry about this first thing. If I were to talk about video production, then the first step for me would be the Gamuts. Now, I've done videos before about HDR and SDR and explaining what that is. Like, HDR is basically a wider amount of information, so an overexposed, acrylically exposed, and underexposed image put together. But a gamut is basically the depth of information that is being produced in the file, like in the video recording. It's a wider gamut because it's in high dynamic range for me right now, but otherwise it would be an SDR, which is standard dynamic range, and that's the amount of data captured to work with. Now, then when you put something into a software, then that is interpreting it to be able to put it into a color profile. Now, when creating something digitally, it's pretty standard to put something into a RGB color profile, and when you're creating something for print, it's normal to put it into a CMYK color profile. But a lot of people don't actually know why that is. They just Google it and those words come up and it's recommended. Fundamentally, some color profiles are wider than others. RGB color profile is considered the widest and best for digital and on-screen stuff because screens emit light. They produce their own source of light and therefore produce their own colors as well. They take the information provided by the camera, for example, and then turn it into a color, into a numerical code, which can be referred to as hex code, for example, and then that puts it into the different color profiles. In RGB, it takes the amount of red, the amount of green, and the amount of blue and puts it together, and that creates your color in your image. If you're in CMYK, that is off cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which actually means black, to create the brightness levels, and that is an entirely different color profile, and that is what printers work off because printers are reflecting light and light is bouncing off of them. The thing that you're printing on doesn't create its own source of light, so it can't create color in the same way. As a result, a lot of print color profiles don't have as much range as screen color profiles. Now the problem comes when you're starting to create something on a screen but then you want to print it. That's where a lot of people get confused. Now, when I went into creating my first product to actually be physically manufactured, I understood this difference, but it's really awkward when you're doing that. Now, there are softwares like Canva, where one of my really popular videos is making a photo book in Canva, and I show you that you need the pro version of Canva to export in CMYK, but it converts really smoothly. Naturally, like the typical reaction when you're converting from RGB to CMYK is that it gets a little bit desaturated, it's not as vibrant, it's not like glowing as much, but it's pretty much the same when you export in Canva. But if you're not working with a tool that has such a clean conversion process, then you might need to work through it in another way. So I have created a keychain as my first product. This is very typical of a lot of artists, small business, creative type people. They'll start with a keychain because it's relatively cheap to manufacture and it's kind of hard to mess up compared to other stuff. The piece of art I really wanted to turn into a keychain was the piece of art I made in my learning how to do digital art video that I posted a couple of weeks back, and it was my crystal padlock. I absolutely am obsessed with it, so that was the first piece I wanted to actually make. Plus, it's a keychain, so it's actually kind of relevant, you know, a lock and a key kind of situation. Now, I created this in RGB using Procreate. Procreate being the software that is quite famous this week because they have publicly announced that they hate generative AI and they will not be using it, and I agree, and I'm quite happy about that as a creative professional. But the problem is, a couple things that people critique Procreate for is it's very hard to actually convert files in it. You can export it as a Photoshop file and you can go through there, but I just have Procreate right now. I don't really want to pay for other services, and I'm sort of fundamentally against Adobe unless they're giving me money for my stock photos. I refuse to pay them for a monthly subscription fee. That's why I choose my softwares based on lifetime licenses. But the problem with Procreate is if you create a piece of art in RGB, which is the best one for creating it on a screen like my iPad that I'm drawing it on, and I want the biggest range of colors available while I'm doing it to post it on my social media, for example, then you can't just export it in a different color profile CMYK. You could export it as a project or as a JPEG or a PNG, and it'll be exported as an RGB, and you can put it through a converter. What a lot of people recommend is you create a new project and a new canvas with the same dimensions, but this time you create it with the CMYK color profile. Annoyingly, you have to copy layer by layer when you do it in Procreate. You literally have to go between the two canvases and copy and then paste, and then you have to put the opacity sliders and any overlays. It carries over most of the adjustments, but stuff like that you need to put it back in if it's got a less than 100% opacity, or you want to put it as like multiply or overlay or like, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's a bit tedious, but it's acceptable. The problem is when you're directly copying these layers over, you can actually see in real time how the color profiles don't directly match up with one another if you're using really vibrant colors. Like my keychain actually has a glowing effect because I put a blurred layer on it, so it creates like this emanating light, and that just didn't translate over very well. It wasn't very vivid, so everything looked a little grayed out. Now the manufacturer I used, Vograce, they have a system where you upload the files as you put the product in your basket. You have a little zip folder and you put the project in and you note it with how many versions you want of it, any extra layers you want added. And for this specific design, I originally just sent it off as the project, like the PSD file, and then sent it to them in the color profile and let them just do it. And what they do is after a few days, like maximum about 3 business days, then they send back a proof for you. And originally my proof was wrong in that they had cut out the nice glowy aspect and the little sparkles they had on the outside of the lock design, and then they said it's because they couldn't separate out the layers, because if I wanted it to actually glow and not just be a solid color, which it wasn't, then it would have to be a semi-transparent layer, they described it as, which the word is translucent, but you know, whatever. And they wanted it layered as semi-transparent. So I went back in there and I had my design layer, I had my semi-transparent layers, which was the glow and the sparkles, and then I had my background, which was a big solid purple that I put into a little shape, and you also have to mark the keyhole. I might go into more depth on this on how to prepare a file. This is just to talk about the color profile elements of it. And I sent that back to them and I approved it for production. Now I was really nervous because this was my first ever sample and I had no idea what it was going to look like, because they send you this proof back. I didn't know what color profile the proof was in. So when you look on something that is naturally a little less saturated on your screen, you don't know what it's going to look like. I actually tried printing out the proof file to see if it was gonna look like how I wanted it to look like, but then I didn't have enough ink on my printer. Like, this was not very helpful for me because it's all just, you can even tell I was running out of like darker ink, and there were no reds or anything in it because it's mainly a purple pink design and it mainly came out blue. So this was not helpful to me at all. Like, I really don't have a way of knowing if the proof file they exported to send me was in CMYK or in RGB. I even tried changing the color settings on my Mac screen to emulate it, but it just never really set my mind at ease. So eventually, after a week of production time and about a month of waiting for it to be delivered to me, I received my physical keychains in the post, and oh my god, I am so happy with it. And now I can use this example to read any future proofs I get, because then I can determine how it looked on my screen compared to how it looks in real life, and I can adjust that. A lot of people, when they actually put their layers into the new CMYK project in Procreate, they will go up and they will boost the saturation and they will boost the brightness and they will do tweaking, but I didn't know if I should do any tweaking. Now I know in the future I probably might do that a little bit and might boost it a little bit, but I knew that I was never going to actually recreate the glow that I had because it's physically impossible in a print version. The product I got was an epoxy acrylic keychain, so it's 2 layers of acrylic with the same design. It's mirrored on the back because I wanted the same design, but you know, it's a very flippable design. If you've got words on it, then you've got to make sure you send them a separate front and back image for your design. I just wanted that. So then it's got the layer of the design, a layer of white in between, so it doesn't like show each other off through on the other side. And then because I had a semi-transparent layer, this layer has the glow effect, and then it also has the little sparkles I got on the outside. And then this is also where they put the purple background. I wanted a glitter epoxy layer, which comes over the top. Didn't give me the option to color the epoxy glitter in any certain way I wanted. I feel like this is because of the way I chose the product, but I feel like it depends on the exact category you go into on the Vograce website, but I do believe there are products where you can choose the glitter you have in the epoxy. It didn't let me choose, but I'm quite happy with it. It's like a sort of, it looks kind of like a base gold with the shimmer, so it's like a rainbow shimmer but on gold little flecks, which I don't really know, but I feel like the warm tones of it really adds to all the cold colors I have on it. This is what it came out like. I am very, very happy with it. You can see I got the little star keychain, which like I chose that as the clasp because I thought it was really cute. And it depends what light you shine on it, how obvious the glow is. So it might not be, it looks pretty solid when you put it on the camera, but if I like hold it up to, I haven't got anything that emits light right now. Like, let me get my phone. So if I turn on my phone torch for backlight, then you can see, wait. Oh wow, why is this hard? You can see through it to a degree. And you can see there's more darkness in the middle of the keychain there because the glow doesn't extend to there. It's more on the outside. And then I really doubt you're going to be able to see the speckles Oh wait, if I hold it up really close, you can kind of see through. You can kind of see the glow layer where it's semi-translucent, and then it's more solid because it blocks my face there. And you can see the purple more easily. The detail of the locket is kind of like blurry now, but you might be able to see, there you go, there's like the little shimmer. And then you might be able to see the little sparkle flecks because there's a group of 3 down here, and then there's 1 on each side. Well, there's 2 on one side actually. There's 2 on one side, and then 1 on like the other side, and then there's 1 on below. But that's what it looks like, and I think it's beautiful. And I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I ordered 3 of them for the sample. When you order samples, you can actually order 3 different designs. Like there's a minimum order quantity, but you can put a different design for every one. I just didn't think of that because I was so excited. I didn't want to take the time to change any of my other designs, and I didn't want to pay for like more bad samples, so at least if it was wrong in a way, I had it wrong consistently, so I could like sell those ones and then make a tweak and then have another batch. But it came out great. I'm happy with it first time. I would say that this is slightly more saturated color wise than the proof that I received back, and you can see a little bit more of the pinks and the blues in it. I was worried it was going to turn out like more grey, but you can really see the colour in it more than you could see in the proof, but not as much as when it was in the RGB version, because those colours just don't exist in the CMYK colour profile. So now I know how to interpret it for future. These are available for pre-order on my website now, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be collecting pre-orders until Halloween, because I haven't had a physical product on my store before. Normally it's been drop shipped, and then also I've had digital products and like online services, but this is my first product that you can actually like hold, and I'm gonna maintain stock of it. So I had no idea how much stock I should get, so I have my free samples. I'm gonna be using these to take more detailed product images, because right now I just have little phone snaps on my website. And I'm gonna be taking more proper product shots and little videos with my big girl camera here, and then once I've collected how much I need for pre-orders and I know how big a batch I'm going to need to get, because the bigger the batch, the bigger the discount with Vograce, which is always great, then I will be doing my pre-order, and when I send off for that batch to fulfill the pre-order and it becomes just generally available, I will also be ordering samples of some other artworks that I've been producing since I received this back and know how to do it now. So if you're interested in that, then I would strongly encourage you get it before Halloween, because there's a pre-order discount as well, because it means I'm definitely not going to be wasting money, so I can eat into my margin a little bit with that one. And then after that point, it will just be available. If I ever run out of stock again, then there will be a delay in it coming back, but the pre-order discount will not be coming back. It will just be available for pre-order for when I order the next batch. So if you want it for a little bit cheaper, then get it through my shop, linked in the description below. I will also be making these available on the TikTok shop, because I have had other products, but I've not put them on the TikTok shop because it's really set up for physical items that you ship out. It does not respond well to any digital products, or it can kind of deal with dropship products, but it doesn't really like dropship products. Hard to put the data in and for holding stock and stuff and dispatching out. It's kind of awkward. I'm relatively newly familiar with TikTok shop in terms of actually fulfilling orders details. I feel like I've not been able to go into as much depth of this as I wanted to, because it is like 11 at night and I wanted to get this video out tomorrow, and I've just not been in a camera ready mood. I had a really busy week. I was doing a lot to like, even to get the pre-order information up, I had to set up a shipping provider, which I ended up going with Royal Mail Click and Drop, and I've got a few different options of, you can have it faster, you can have it tracked, you can have it internationally, and integrating that onto my WooCommerce website was a little confusing at first, because the way it sets up to actually auto send through the labels when you make the purchase is separate to showing the payment options for the different shipping. So it's like 2 separate things I had to do. Like one was a third-party plugin, one was like connecting it and integrating it to their platform with Royal Mail, but they don't have an API, so you have to sort of do it semi-manually sometimes. So that was really complicated and my brain's kind of fried, but I wanted to show you the results, and I wanted to explain that it's really, really hard to predict what a printed item is going to look like until you print it, but you can have estimations. One thing that's interesting is CMYK is like a blanket term, but there are different types of CMYK. There's also different types of RGB, and there are other color profiles that I haven't even mentioned, but these are like the main 2 that people know about. But when you're uncertain, it's probably wise to just create your artwork or your piece in RGB and then ask the manufacturer what color profile they want it in, because they will probably be able to convert it. A lot of people say you should create it in the color profile that you're going to have it made for, but if you're having it distributed in multiple places on multiple platforms, and then you don't know what type of CMYK they actually use, then you might waste your time and really restrict the colors you want to work with. Like, I've managed to dig around, and Vograce do recommend that you produce the file in CMYK, but then a different place on their website, they also link to recommended converters if you only have the RGB file, for example. And I believe at one place it was written that they work in CMYKJ, which might mean Japan, I'm not sure, but they're based in China, so it might make sense if they're using an Asian standard. I would recommend using RGB to create your piece and then converting with a specifically intended tool, or doing the method of creating a new canvas and copy pasting and seeing what comes out with a little bit of adjustments to be made. Let me know if I missed anything that still really confuses you in the comments, because Christ knows that I am very confused right now and I don't know what I've covered, and editing this is going to be a nightmare by tomorrow. But yeah, here is what I made. I would recommend it. I will be getting more samples in the future. I'm doing like a themed crystal mini-series of turning like everyday objects into crystallized versions. Like, I've already made a water bottle, I just need to convert that into CMYK for the sample, and then I've also got a few more planned. Like, I don't want to do animals, but I feel like I'll end up doing a bat because I just like that and I think it'll look cool. And then I'm also going to do sparring gloves. I'm going to do a red one and a blue one because, you know, that's the classic, and then I might be able to get people who I know from martial arts to get those and maybe stock them on their club shops. That would be cool. If you want to supply these, then hell yeah, let me know. You can get them on the pre-order as well, and I don't care what you use them for, as long as I get my share of the profits. And then also, I feel like I need a green one, and I'm struggling on the green one. My candidates for a green crystal item are either a wheelie bin or like a minty green, and it's a blob of toothpaste coming out of like a wrung out toothpaste tube. Or I was considering army pants, where like some of it is fabric and then the camo blotches are crystal as well. Like with the water bottle, like this whole thing is crystal except for the hole in it, but with the water bottle it's like the water inside is crystal, so it's like solid but you can still see it sloshing about and there's little bubbles in it, you know, like when an ice cube's not entirely frozen. I'll probably just put a picture up. I think it's really cool. And then the actual water bottle itself is like a gradient, and it's kind of glowy but it's still solid, so yeah, I am excited. And I hope you like these too, because it is my own original art. It's very classic to do fan art, but I'm very iffy about IP law because I want to follow it where possible because I respect other professional creatives. But also a lot of people just enjoy and encourage having fan art made. Like Pokemon is owned by like Nintendo, kind of, depending on the way you do it, because some of the games are owned by Nintendo, and then there's also the Pokemon company. It's just a bit messy, but they really don't like it. Like, they don't like their IP being violated, kind of like Disney don't like their IP being violated. But you'll see a million Pokemon fan art products around. And I know that Hasbin Hotel, Vivzy Pop, she encourages people to make merch and stuff. Like, if you go through the reviews on Vograce, there's a lot of Hasbin Hotel stuff because it's safe. But I have an idea that I'm working on to do with some anime I love, and I'm not going to give away my concept until I've made the product because I don't want anyone to do it faster than me. But it's like a little collab between two like lesser known, although still got massive cult fan base animes, and I'm going to like shove them together. And I'm nervous about that because I've not done any art with people yet, but they're kind of chibi style, so it's kind of easier. But thank you for watching. Let me know what you would like to see, and have a nice day.